Hey, Sarah, I first want to start with JuJu Watkins,
Yeah.
an ACL tear. Let's just talk about that first because probably ends their run in the tournament, and then I want to go from that. But your thoughts on how severe this is? What do you know? And then what is USC going to do the rest of the tournament?
Yeah, it's just a huge bummer. Not only is she probably going to win Player of the Year, and as a sophomore is already trying to kind of take the mantle from Caitlin Clark as the face, the name, the player that everybody knows. But it's always just terrible to see a season end prematurely. We all wanted to see what would happen if USC ended up facing UConn, which is what we expected in the Elite Eight. See Paige Beckers versus JuJu Watkins. That's a ratings bonanza, and that's the two biggest names really in women's college basketball right now. So yeah, just really heartbroken for JuJu. I will say I don't think USC's tournament is over. Kiki Iriafen had 36 points and 9 boards in their last game, and they're taking on a Kansas State team that honestly I don't think can beat them even without JuJu. The question really is mentally, Bobby. When your teammate goes down mid-game like that, you see her in a, heap on the floor, she gets carried off, you're waiting to hear exactly what the situation is. Maybe you still have hope that she comes back. When you get to that next game and you've had a couple days to be disappointed, to be heartbroken for your teammate, maybe she's even sitting courtside in a big old brace for this K-State game. Mentally, is this team ready to approach the rest of the tournament with a completely different mindset without their, top player superstar with them?
And USC still a point and a half favorite. That line changed drastically once she was
Oh, yeah.
injured. Uh,
Yeah.
as far as the ACL injury goes, though, it's so late. And again, it feels almost like Kyrie in the NBA, where that injury was so late that it's going to affect next year, almost the whole
Yeah.
season with him next year. So, same thing here with JuJu Watkins, this ACL tear. How severe is it, or what do we know about it? And as far as next year goes, is she going to be able to be 100% when the season starts?
Yeah, so the last thing we heard was just from USC officially that she would be out for the rest of the tournament. Then we had sources reporting the ACL tear. So the last I've seen from USC, my guess is that they haven't come out with an official notice about the injury because they're trying to see if there are other related injuries. Oftentimes with an ACL, you might have an MCL, you might have other knee issues in addition to the ACL tear. So I think they're probably just trying to figure out the extent of the damage before they reveal the diagnosis and the prognosis in terms of how long it'll take. These injuries and these surgeries are better than ever. Here in Chicago, one of the NWSL players for the Chicago Stars, Sam Staub, came back way faster than expected. So I think it is dependent on the player, the rehab, how well the surgery goes. But yeah, it's pretty late. And I think what we know about Juju is if you're not super familiar with the women's game, people have been asking me like, "Oh, she's going to be number 1 in the draft, right? Like she's got to go." And I'm like, "Oh, on the women's side there are age requirements. You have to play X number of years and or meet a certain age in order to be eligible for the WNBA draft, at least with the current CBA. That might change. But with Juju, she's only a sophomore. So I don't know how much it might cut into next season, whether that ends up being something where she'll save eligibility or whether she's in a rush to get to the next level. So a lot of that will just depend on her recovery.
Well, and also there's a massive pay disparity too, where Juju would make a lot more money playing at USC than with
Not
just.
necessarily, because with the WNBA, you get your salary and you still get all those sponsorships. NIL money can be tied to universities for areas and for sports in particular where your peak earning power is as a collegiate athlete, where, softball, for instance, is a sport where the World Series, College World Series for women is such a big deal that they sometimes can make more in endorsements and stuff in their college years. But in the WNBA, you get a salary. You can add another 200K plus a year in Unrivaled if you join that league, and you get all the sponsorships and deals you were getting in college.
You got to go play another league though too. Well, 3-on-3 is pretty fun. I like 3-on-3. I did
Yeah, I
like.
mean, Unrivaled, they put it together well, and they're getting paid.
What did you
I
think
mean,
of
that
Unrivaled?
one-on-one tournament alone,
What did you
I
think of?
thought it was a blast. I thought it was a blast. I think part of it for me is if you know the women's game and you know these players well, you're fascinated to see them mixed up and playing together. And you also love to see the ISOs where you get to see skill sets that maybe you didn't recognize. And I think, if you tend to watch men's hoops, you have to imagine if you took the 33 best NBA players and dropped them into Miami for 8 weeks and got to see all these rivals playing on the same team for the first time. The one-on-one tournament, I don't know if you saw Kevin Durant and some other NBA players saying, I don't know how they beat us to this, but we got to do this. And the question is whether the NBA guys have a willingness to put their egos on the line in a one-on-one. Because I loved watching that and what we learned from that, like especially about the unicorns and the bigs. I thought it was gonna be a lot of guards with some nifty ball handling skills working their way around the bigs, and it ended up being one guard in the final four players and a bunch of bigs that had crazy length and much faster, more endurance than you expected from the talls. So I would love to see that on the men's side too. So I thought Unrivaled had a bunch of ideas that are gonna get stolen by other leagues.
Let's take the JuJu Watkins. Let's put it in the vacuum so it doesn't exist. So I just want to talk about UConn for a second because I think
Yeah,
Paige Becker stays. Everybody wants to see her win a championship. We love to see people that hang around and stay
yeah.
with it, and then for that to finally pay off. And South Carolina and UConn are probably the two teams now. It's gonna, it's. But I think now, like my interest. I was very much a JuJu Watkins guy. I got a bunch of signed JuJu Watkins stuff. If I'm being honest with you,
Nice.
very selfishly,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'm rooting for UConn, and it's weird to root for a dynasty I have no relationship with because I love to see somebody stick around and then
Yeah.
see that come to fruition. So talk about that.
Yeah, I had Gino Oriema on my show Good Game with Sarah Spain, and we talked about how it's kind of unfair, but it's true that if Paige Beckers and ends up graduating and they don't win this year, she will be the best player UConn's had that never got a ring. And that's been injuries, that's been quality of play, that's been parity across the women's game, completely shifting in the last couple of years. It used to be all about UConn, and now there are any number of teams. You didn't even mention UCLA. They have a really good shot to win it. I don't think anyone has a good answer for Lauren Betts. So there's a handful of teams that you could see winning it, and I would love to see UConn win too. I just think Paige Beckers has fought through so much as an athlete. She is an incredible ambassador for the game, for speaking up for not just herself, but other players that are not as often talked about. And watching her and AZ Fudd be on the court at the same time healthy. And they have absolutely dusted everyone in their path. If we were reseeding this, starting with the Elite Eight, I think you'd be hard pressed to put a team above UConn, maybe South Carolina. They have also absolutely obliterated anything in its path in their path. But yeah, UConn and Paige Beckers now sort of takes the stage as probably the name everybody knows and the team people will be rooting for now that Juju's out.
Texas is a one seed. I hate Texas. How good's Texas?
Wait. Do you hate this team or just anything from Texas?
Any Texas, University of Texas
Okay.
team, period, ever in
Okay.
the history of the world. I hate them all. Not individual. I lived in Austin, my favorite city. I lived there for 13 years, and I have friends
So fun.
that coach on staffs and have played there, and I love them individually. I hate Texas, so I hope they lose everything. But they are really good. But as far as the one seeds go, are they comparable to South Carolina, UCLA?
I think this is a tough one. Sometimes I feel like they're being slept on. Madison Booker is insane, 20 plus points in each of the first couple games. Vic Schaefer, a very, very respected and very veteran coach who has led this team to some pretty big wins. And they took care of business in the first two rounds. Zero challenges from William and Mary in Illinois. I just think that they don't have the sizzle of some of the other ones, and so they can get slept on. I think they will be fine with Tennessee. Tennessee's a tough one though, in that they can lose any game and they lose some games you're kind of confused by, but they can also beat some really good teams. So I think Texas is fine in the Elite Eight. I think when you get down to the Final Four, you're gonna have Texas probably as the number one seed that I think will be easier to knock off than the others.
Yeah, I like to hear that. I'm really rooting for that to happen. You mentioned Gino earlier, and it's been talked about a few times. But Gino, I won't say a hater, but did not probably have the belief that Caitlin Clark could perform as quickly as she did last year. What would Gino say if you asked him about it today?
Yeah. I don't think anyone, frankly, was, well, that's not true. I'm not going to name any names. There were a couple haters, but for the most part, I think it was people being honest, and a lot of folks not in the women's game expected a lot more kid gloves, didn't understand that this is a professional league. WNBA is going to be just like any other league where they're going to say, welcome to the show, Rook. We're going to show you how it's done. And Caitlin, her turnovers, her sloppiness with the ball early on was what a lot of people expected. You're playing bigger, faster, stronger, more talented players at every single position on every other team. And then she found her groove, and it was so fun to watch. I think Gino would probably, I don't know. I don't want to speak for him, but I think a lot of the folks were honest. And Diana Taurasi was a perfect example. Like when she was playing against Caitlin, she had nothing but great things to say about her, but she was accurate in what she said, which is the beginning's going to be a little tough for her. And it was. It was what a lot of folks expected. I'm fascinated to see what the Indiana Fever look like this season. They have added some pieces, and they are going to be a problem. And we've already seen, I think, 41 of their 44 games are going to be on national television. Most of their opponents are looking to upgrade venues so that they're playing, for instance, the Chicago Sky in the United Center where the Chicago Bulls play. A lot of teams are looking to NBA stadiums and arenas to try to get enough fans in because everybody wants to get that ticket. So year 2 of the WNBA with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, same thing with that. It's going to be a blast.
I'm not saying this because we're talking women's sports with you specifically, but Caitlin Clark is my favorite American athlete, period.
I love that.
Across all sports. And so I was always an advocate early on of she just finished playing college basketball and immediately it's not the same as the men where they finish their season, they go to camps, they work out for teams, they rest, they have it's okay, that's over, you're immediately on. And I think that was probably a significant reason that she was a bit slower. It's weird to say slower developing, a bit slower developing in her terms as she was.
And also just getting to know your teammates. Like one of Caitlin's best skills is her playmaking and her passing. And if you're not in a rhythm yet with teammates, because to your point, you literally just played in the national championship, then got drafted, then you're suddenly having to play games with a whole new team in a whole new league. You just don't have the timing down yet. And what we saw not only from her teammates was that they started to figure out her style of play. She started to feed them where they wanted the ball. And now you're going to have this influx of even better talent on that team to work with for her. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so much fun.
I can't wait as well. And you mentioned the pieces, but also if like you get to bring a friend to your team, which is what happened with Caitlin Clark. If you get to bring like a good friend to play with you who's also really good, that's pretty exciting.
And a brand new coach. And I'll tell you what, Stephanie White is a very talented coach who did great things with that with that Connecticut team. And when we saw that they were parting ways, quote unquote, parting ways mutually, we knew she was headed to Indiana and we knew she wanted to go get a chance to coach Caitlin on that team. So that's going to be a blast.
I'm not a poser. I have a WNBA ticket game. I call it's not Sunday ticket. What's it called?
League Pass.
League Pass. I have
League Pass.
Yeah, I have WNBA League Pass. And so I'm not a poser on many other things. I am for sure, but for this, I'm definitely I am not a poser, and I'm super excited. And we know that a lot of the Pacers execs, because the Pacers and that's the same owners, and so it's going to be awesome to see them rested. Because you also, I could do this for an hour, but just looking. They had 2 first-round picks in a row, and the South Carolina, the girl from South Carolina, the center. They were terrible, but she was the only good player on the team the year before.
Aaliyah Boston. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, when you're a team that gets back-to-back number 1 overall picks, that says something about your record, right? I think that tells you what you need to know about what was happening with the Fever the last couple of years before. They had one of the greatest players of all time, Tamika Catchings, and they had a really good stretch when she was there. Unfortunately, after she retired, it's been pretty ugly for them. But now they re-signed Kelsey Mitchell, like you said, Aaliyah Boston, Sophie Cunningham coming from the Mercury. It's a fiery, feisty player. That'll be interesting. Obviously, Brianna Turner, Lexi Hall I think, improved her skill set and Unrivaled and is going to bring more in her bag. And then you added DeWanna Bonner and Sydney Colson. Sydney Colson, an incredible just attitude player, someone who's won titles with the Aces and comes in as a veteran, is going to bring just great vibes. And then DeWanna Bonner, one of the greatest scorers of all time in the WNBA. She's one of those players that when you're watching her, she is so tall and so skinny that you're like, how is she not getting broken on every play? And instead she's out there, averaging 16 plus a game and just dominating.
I have 3 final questions for you. They're completely independent of anything we've talked about. And number 1 is that you played lacrosse at Cornell.
No, heptathlon.
Wait,
track.
what? Wait,
yeah.
what? That's even better.
Someone got you bad info.
Well, that's even better. Yeah. I blame Kevin. Can you show Kevin on it? Because I didn't know that. I was surprised by that, which is why I was asking the question.
People responsible.
He's responsible. So I was shocked by that, but now I'm even more shocked that you did the
Yeah.
So what? How many is that?
Heptathlon is it's 7.
Se-
It's long jump, high jump, hurdles, 800,
I was trying to
200,
count. I thought it was
javelin, and
6.
He
shot
couldn't
put.
count that
Yeah, I
high.
thought it was. I was one.
Yeah,
Two.
you stopped at 6.
Wait, so which were you best at? Well, what did you thrive at? And then what was your worst that you had to like
Yeah.
take the
Javelin
floor
was
higher?
javelin, long jump, and hurdles were my best,
Okay.
and 800. It's the last event. You're tired, you're sore, and you gotta basically sprint half a mile. Not great for me.
Is it? Because
Not my
I've
favorite.
done a couple triathlons, and that's only 3. That's not 7.
Right,
I guess 7's.
track.
I don't know if
There's
anybody looked
there's
7.
swimming and biking in there, which
Yes.
aren't in mine, but sure, yep.
But when what they put the swimming first because they don't want you to die, honestly, because they don't want you to drown.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you in the heptathlon, and because I have no knowledge of this, do they
Right.
put them in an order based on what you just said because of things that could possibly go wrong if you're more exhausted at one of them?
I would say, yeah, safety for sure. And also, an 800 is an empty the tank event. Like, you couldn't run an 800 knowing you have to save your legs for long jump or hurdles or something. So they put that last. So it's like, after this, you just get to lie down. If you ever watch, like, it's one of my favorite things when I try to explain to people, like the camaraderie of people in a heptathlon, because you're moving event to event together over and over all day for 2 days. So you just like know each other well. So it's like you bond with your opponents a lot. But also at the end of the 800, they are all flat on their backs on the track, dead. Just like that was it. That was all I had. I gave it all. I'm not moving for a couple days. And you could just tell that that's it. Kaput.
Side question. I'm gonna actually ask a question to one of our guys. Hey, Kevin, why did you think she played lacrosse? Like where did that come from? Your mic's
Oh,
on.
is it on? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't see the light.
You've embarrassed me in front of my friend.
Yeah,
Because I was shocked by that, which is why I was bringing it up.
I've embarrassed myself in front of your friend.
Yeah.
I blame the internet.
That's
Where would it say I played lacrosse on the internet? That's
Right.
wild. You know,
yeah.
the internet also says my husband is a billionaire, which, there are things we wish were true on the internet.
I
and there
saw
are
that,
things
but I
we're
didn't
glad
put it
are
on the
not.
sheet.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be nice.
He'll be whipped after. Don't worry. Bulls fan.
Yeah.
Josh Giddey. Thoughts. He's well. Okay.
I mean, listen,
you made a funny noise. He's played well, but weird. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some stuff with Josh
Yes.
Giddey that we're all.
Yes. That's why I asked the
right?
question.
Yeah, I'm more interested in talking about Kobe White. How exciting is Kobe? Like, listen, let me take you inside the world of a Bulls fan in Chicago right now. They messed up the local sports network so bad that in order to watch the games, you have to put a satellite dish on your house. What year is it? You can't pay, you can't subscribe. Like, nobody in Chicago, very few people are even watching the games because they so royally screwed us over with the new network that it's like it's literally impossible for some people to get the games unless they go to the United Center and watch them in person.
Yeah, that sucks.
That's terrible.
Especially
It's been so
somewhere
disappointing.
like Chicago. And no offense to
Yeah.
like Salt Lake City, but I would think, okay.
Right. When I used to see that in other markets, I'd be like, wow, that's so backwards. I feel so bad for them. They're so behind the times. And I'm like, here? And here's the thing. So back in the day, the owner of the Blackhawks, so this is the same thing for the Blackhawks. Like, they're on that same network. Almost no one can watch them. Back in the day, the owner of the Blackhawks thought it would encourage more people to come in person if he blacked them out in the local market so that they'd have to come watch. And instead, just no one cared and no one paid attention to them. And when he passed away, the son took over and was like, we got to get us back on TV. That's when they started winning all the titles. And it was like, clearly we would never do that again. And yet here we are.
Right. Rest in peace around the horn.
Yeah, some exciting news that I can't quite share yet. So I'll just give you a tease that there are going to be some things that happen over the end of the show's run that I think people will be excited about. I'm so sad it's going away. I just think it's so special, not just for all of us on it that really felt like it was like a family and Tony Reale was our little TV dad, but I think also just it was very unique in presentation, in style, in different perspectives, and hearing from different cities. It's just everything's so debatey now, and it was a lot more nuanced, and I thought really fun, especially the Halloween shows.
I'm a massive lifelong Cubs fan. How you feel about Council?
Jury's still out. I think when you have as much success as he had before arriving, you have to assume that there's still a lot of good stuff to come. I'm just consistently disappointed with how the Cubs of late have acted like a small market team. I don't expect everyone to be the Dodgers and spend, but there's not enough pieces. I'm excited about Tucker. Obviously, Shota is really exciting. I look forward to another year of hopefully Justin Steele dominating. I just don't think there's enough. Like you look at them against the teams that have these stacked rosters, and I don't think they've done enough. And to me, that's a choice. That's a team that knows they're going to make a ton of money because everybody wants to come to Wrigley every year and buy the gear and everything. But, time to get back in the business of contending.
I tell my friends, because I've been a loser my whole life with my two teams, which is Arkansas and the Cubs. We had 2016, and that was amazing. I went to the World Series. I went to Game 2. We lost to the Indians, but we ended up still winning. It was great.
I went to all 7. It was so
You didn't have to flex. You didn't have to flex. I was in the middle of my story. You didn't have to flex on me right there.
Yeah,
but
that's cooler.
I feel you. It's all good. And I was talking to a friend the other day about it, and we're talking baseball, and because one of his best friends is the GM for the Dodgers, and I was like, man, you guys have money, and he asked me, what does it feel like sucking? I said, you know what? I think I die, and I'm okay because there were like 2 generations ahead of us that never got to see it.
Never saw it.
Like parents and grandparents. Unless you were alive in 2008, you never got to see it. So even though I want to win and I expect to be competitive and I'd like to see us spend money, we could still have joy because of 2016. For the kids out there, he means 1908, not 2008. You know
Unless
what?
you were
That is a
alive in
great point.
1908.
Yes.
Because it was over a century ago. There are 2 08s he could be referring to. I completely agree. I remember talking to Boston fans, and they were kind of telling me the only thing that sucks is once you break the streak and you win, you're just every season's a disappointment and you're mad because now you expect to win every year. And I was like, no, that's a choice. Like you could choose to come off the mountain of happiness about the win and start complaining every year. I'm just going to stay on top of the mountain. And so, yes, of course, I want them to spend. I want them to contend. I want them to be good. But I have not lost the joy and the gratitude of being alive for 2016. Because to your point, during that run, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps literally just talking about it. The number of people that took radios to a gravestone to listen with someone that they lost that didn't make it long enough. The chalk writing on the side of Wrigley Field on the bricks, like shouting out people that couldn't be there and weren't alive for it. Like, I don't know, there's something particularly romantic about baseball and particularly about it's just the Cubs history that you'll never get me to not get kind of teary-eyed about the fact that we got to be alive and see that.
My final question, and we mentioned before you came on, just again, you guys listen to Good Game with Sarah Spain, wherever you get your podcast, but we're literally on a podcast, so that's like going, hey, we're at a grocery
Not right
store.
here.
Wherever
like if you're getting your
food,
podcast here, you can't get it here, but anywhere else,
she's very funny. Obviously, she knows sports. And you're doing a thing at the Women's Final Four with Sue Bird, who I love and have gotten a chance to know. I don't know Diana Taurasi at all, but Sue's awesome. What are you guys doing there?
We're doing a live show for Capital One. Just going to talk about their relationship, Diana retiring. I have another tease. I can't give too many details, but if you're a fan of John Oliver's show and the way he sort of takes his show from on the air to into the world, he'll like do a story about a mascot and then buy that mascot costume, or he'll do a story and then end up having the John Oliver koala chlamydia unit in Australia as a result of the story. Like he just takes the show and brings it out, breaks the fourth wall. I have a little moment with Diana Taurasi in honor of her retirement that will be announced during that show. And then that's going to air, I think, the Monday after the Final Four. But anybody in Tampa can come watch that show in person. It's going to be a blast.
And okay, and the final question is: when you walked off the field in your lacrosse career, like what was your final thought as you left the field?
I think it was like, wow, I should have learned the rules. Yeah. And I don't know what position I am. And why am I dressed for high jump?
Exactly. Sarah, you're the best. You guys follow, it's in the notes, but on Instagram, Sarah Spain 2323. Go look at the notes. We have it all there. Appreciate you. You do an awesome job. You guys saw her at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, she was on the stage.
Oh, you didn't
I saw you. I saw you at the Super Bowl. You just don't remember because you were in the zone. You were getting ready for your show, Bobby, but we said hello. Yes.
You guys said hello and you didn't say anything? You don't remember that?
I said hello to you.
I was at the Super Bowl?
Hey.
I
think you were like, who is this lady on my stage?
That's not true.
Let me just get out of your way.
That would not be true. That would not be true in a million years, because I actually, the first time we met, went to you and was like, hey, I'm a massive fan, and here's when I used to listen to you.
We had a blast in France. And maybe you didn't recognize me. Maybe I was off my game. Maybe I looked weird. I don't know.
Maybe we
did say
she never lacrosse uniform on.
Hello.
I only know her in her lacrosse jersey. That's what it
right.
is. Sarah, thank you, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Listen to Good Game, only women's daily sports podcast. Come check us out.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
That was awesome.